Good afternoon, guys. Happy Friday to all of your sunshiny faces. So, guys, it is actually after the football game. I did record earlier at the football game. It was Matthew's last home game, which is like bittersweet. I don't think it really sunk in because like they still have a game left next Friday, but like that's their last game. Like that might be the last football game he ever plays in, and it's so like seriously, guys, I'm like thinking back to like Matthews and flag and everything like that, and I was like, oh, well, this is like his last home game. I was like, but then we have next year, and I'm like, wait, we don't have next year. Like that's it. And the thing is, though, like my dad already talked about it too. Matthew's really good friend who actually plays at a different school. He's a year younger than Matthew. And they were the ones, I think I told you guys last year too. I don't know if they went to state. They were like in the playoffs and stuff like that. They were actually on TV. And you guys might have saw that vlog from last year, but like they broadcasted his game on TV. And it was like crazy. Like his freshman year, I think he was like starting varsity, like fullback or something like that. He's like crazy. He like the amount of yardage he gets is like ridiculous, and he's like huge too. Like it's funny because like when he played with Matthew, because he was always a year younger, but he always played like with Matthew's age level, and when he was like little playing in like youth football, his brother was like a couple years older than me, and he was like stinking huge. And he's like, Matthew says he's bigger than his brother, and I just remember like how big his brother was, like just like buff, like giant, like not, I mean like tall, but not like super tall, like wide receiver kind of tall, but like fullback. I mean, like he's just like monster, like starting varsity, and at the school he went to too, where it's pretty not like a super fancy school, like amazing football school, but I mean it wasn't like an easy like easily make it onto varsity kind of football team. I mean they went pretty deep. I think they were like maybe one game away. Like the game that they broadcasted, if they would have won that one, I think they would have ended up like getting going further or whatever. But yeah, it was like we were talking about it. My dad's like, let's just go to all of his games next year because he's a year younger than Matthew, so next year will be his senior year. So my dad was like, we'll just go to his games and stuff like that because Jack won't be in high school yet next year, and Jack might not play next year because we don't think that there will be enough kids to have a team for the youth football. So yeah, I was like kind of bittersweet, but they did end up losing. But here's the thing, guys. They played, okay, I really wasn't totally thinking like they were going to win this game. I kind of thought, I didn't know necessarily how good this team was, and I didn't know if it was going to be like a blowout, but I was kind of like, all the ones that my dad was like, oh, these should all be easy wins, was all at the beginning of the season. All the more difficult games my dad kept saying was going to be at the end of the season. So this one I assumed was going to be more one of those difficult ones, like maybe not a blowout game, but like not a very super competitive game at the beginning. Okay, I think with the last like 4 or 5 minutes before halftime, they were up, I think 16 to 14 or 15, something like that. And even before that, they were up, I think in the first half, or after the first quarter, they were up 16 to 7. And so it was like, I was like, wow, like they're, really hanging in there, and they had the ball too at that point in time. And then they ended up marching almost all the way downfield. I think they were in like 15, 20 yards or something like that. They fumbled the ball. Other team got it. Then they marched down the field. There were some really bad calls by the referees. Horrible calls. I mean, really bad ones. Matthew had another pick, but they said that even though Matthew was like, well, I came down with the ball, the kid then grabbed the ball when they were both on the ground, and they said it was joint possession of the ball. So in turn, the offense then ends up getting the ball because of that rule. But it's Matthew picked the ball, came down with it, and then as he was on the ground, the kid fell on top of him and then grabbed the ball, and they said that it was joint possession or something like that. So yeah, it was a really bad call. So that was the one that, like, again, Matthew had it and ended up not getting it. Then they scored, right, and they got the 2-point conversion, but we were still up because we got both of our 2-point conversions. So we were still up by 1 point, and then I forgot what happened. Maybe then we turned the ball over or something like that. And yeah, maybe that was what ended up happening. I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyways, they ended up getting the ball back. I think I'm getting this all confused. They ended up scoring whatever. We marched the ball downfield. I think then that's when we ended up having we turned the ball over or whatever. Then they ended up getting it. Our defense literally played so well. Goal line defense. They ended up stopping them like within I think it was only like less than 5 yards. It was like maybe 3 or 4 yards or something like that, like for 4 downs, literally. And then they ended up getting the first down because they were just shy of it being like, I think within a yard or two of the goal line would have been the first down line or whatever. So then we ended up like stopping them again for almost 4 downs, and then they ended up getting the touchdown. So our defense played really well, which is pretty surprising because lately they've just been getting run over, but they played really well. Then we ended up somehow giving the ball back to them, and then again, just horrible penalties, and then the referees weren't calling anything either. There was so many holding calls. One against Matthew where, I mean, literally the kid had him on his shoulder pad. There's another one where the kid got pushed in the backfield, and our guy, and we couldn't get to the football. So it was just really ridiculous. The refs honestly were horrible. That was all anybody could talk about. I mean, there's so many blatantly obvious ones that they weren't calling anything. And then our coach was yelling about it because there was so many opportunities where they got these huge patches of yards that we couldn't stop because the kids that are now out of the play because they're getting pushed in the backfield, they're getting held and all this other stuff. And so it was just like honestly ridiculous. They ended up going down, I think, 2 touchdowns again within about 4 minutes. We were up right before the half, and then we ended up going down 2 touchdowns because they ended up getting a 15-yard penalty because of our coach. So then they were within like 20 yards, and then they ended up getting, I think we got another penalty against us of something else that, but they weren't calling any of the penalties against the other team. Honestly, if you looked to see how many penalties there was probably like for every 3 that was called against us, there was 1 against the other team. It was ridiculous. And there was way more blatantly obvious ones against the other team. And then, honestly, though, too, like, my dad was even saying that he heard, because he had to go in and get the keys for the game. Well, we were going to practice, actually, at the high school tomorrow, too, but for the games that are on Sunday, and my dad heard, like, the referee saying, like, that the coach on the other team, too, is, like, swearing and all this other stuff, but they are not throwing any flags on them, and that, like, the game was just getting out of hand because then all of our kids are, like, there's all this pushing and extracurricular, stuff going on the field because it's just like at that point the game is out of hand because the referees aren't calling stuff, so the kids are getting frustrated. And it was going both ways too, because I feel like the other team, they had some where there would be a holding or whatever or something like that on us, but then our kids are getting frustrated even more because the other team's getting called but we're not getting anything. I mean, it was blatantly obvious and ridiculous. And then, like, finally, though, in the second half, which we ended up scoring one more time in the second half, but by that time, I think they had scored another touchdown or 2, so game was over. But they ended up calling, like, 3 15-yard penalties or something like that against the other team. So, yeah, it was crazy. But anyways, guys, Matthew did play a little bit of offense. He was playing wide receiver, but he never got the ball thrown to him. And then, 2, our quarterback got hurt. One of our other really good running backs got hurt really early in the game. And we had a couple of kids were out, too. But like, I think for grades and injuries and stuff like that. But anyways, so I'll include the football footage, though, for you guys.
Postmate Ramos. Jack Reynolds and his parents Amy and John B. Reynolds.
I was wanting to take a shower and go to bed, but here's the thing, guys. I went to bed really late last. I think Matthew's home. I went to bed really late last night and woke up really late today. And so I'm like, I don't want to go to bed real early tonight because I feel like I haven't been up long enough for today. And Matthew's supposed to bring me home cheese fries from Steak and Shake because that's where he went. And so I think he just got home. I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to actually watch How to Get Away with Murder and then eat my cheese fries and then go to bed, guys, and take a shower because it's already kind of late. And I'm like, well, is it really going to matter? We have practice at 9 o'clock tomorrow. So whether or not I go to bed like now and take a shower or like another hour or an hour and a half, it's really not going to matter a whole lot. I got like way too much sleep last night, so I feel like I could stay up a little bit later. Thanks, Matthew, for my cheese fries. Anyways, I will see you guys on tomorrow's vlog. If you guys did enjoy today's, make sure you guys give it a big old thumbs up. If you guys are new, we'd love if you subscribe, and I'll see all of your sunshiny faces tomorrow. So, bye, guys.